All right, I've been reading some of your comments. Most of the things I know. Well, first of all, I can't put an antenna outside my house because of the HOA. So that's that. So it's got to go up in the attic. Now, what I do is I did have a rotor thing I bought, but I really want it to be seamless. In other words, I want to be able to turn it to the channel and have the channel. I don't want to have to go and turn the rotor. I don't want to have an AB switch. Years ago, I had an AB switch. What the problem is, one of the problems is, when I moved in here, the tree next door to me in the back, it's a silver maple. It was tiny. Well, since then, it's gotten bigger. And it gets in the way, and it attenuates channel 10, which is ABC up in Harrisburg. It has the sub channel laugh on it, and all of a sudden I noticed I wasn't getting laugh. I was getting laugh, and they did a repack. I readjusted my antennas, and then this tree got me. But what I'm trying to do is there's more channels now, so I'm trying to get both areas, Harrisburg and Philly, and to get some of the stations. It's also, I want to do some experiments. I did some reading, and they warn you that both patch wires that go from the combiner to the antennas have to be the same length. Now, I have two exact antennas. They're Winegard. They're not junk. They're modern ones. They're for high band VHF and UHF. They're they're made for the repack, and I have two of them. And each one by its own, if I point it one in towards Philly, I get a lot of stations. If I turn it and go to Harrisburg, I get a lot of stations, but I don't get the ABC all the time. So I just decided, well, I wanted to get a little further along. Now I know every time you use a combiner or a splitter, you lose, say, 3 dB. Someone actually said 3 dB, which is a lot, believe it or not. Every 3 dB is double the power. Well, anyway, I'm stuck with pricing. What I do, I only spend a certain amount of money every year on antennas and certain things, cell phones, and I have a budget, and I'm building money up because I was buying a lot of $300 and $600 radios, which you might have followed it, and I need a new shed. So I'm almost up there where I have enough money now to buy a new shed. But the Televis, I saw that, and I know the Televis is real good. It's got the amplifier in the antenna. Now I have the two Winegard antennas, and I have what's called a Juice antenna, which is a really good antenna. And I hooked one of the Winegards with the Juice, and I had a Winegard flying wing antenna for a camper, and it's got an amplifier built into it. And I bought the extension for VHF, UHF extension for it. It's a little thing that clips on the front. And that's what I was originally using with the house. And then I bought this giant antenna, which by sitting up in the hot heat of the attic, when I went to move it, all the plastic pieces disintegrated. It was a really expensive antenna. And I got screwed by the repack really bad. They basically it was ABC. ABC doesn't put out enough power. They put out just enough power to make it a legitimate channel so they can then sell it and put it on cable. But when you want to pick it up over the air, it's one of the weaker ones. So there's a lot involved in it. And I'm between two major areas, Philly and Harrisburg. I'm dead center. Both, I think it's the same distance to either one of them. So I'm right at the edge, like 40 miles or something like that. There's a lot going on, but I wanted to get a pair of jumpers or extensions that were the same length, the same brand. I did that, and I'm just running some experiments. Yes, the Televis would probably work. Two amplified Televises, one aimed at Philly, one aimed at Harrisburg, and then them going into their amplified combiner, and then down. But I think you're talking $600. Now, if it was a little bit cheaper, I'd probably go for it because in a year, if you have cable television, you spend over $1,000. Just I think it's $250 a month for just rate standard. Now it's ridiculous. So a lot of this is just keeping me busy. It's busy work. In other words, I think about it, and then I didn't know about the two uh, wires that went to each antenna. I have two identical antennas, and I didn't know the wire had to be the same length. And I did hook them up that way, and I'll find out the results. In other words, um, from each antenna down through the same length wire to the combiner, out of the combiner to the juice antenna, juice amplifier, and then down. See, this is an experiment. This is what I do. And I know most people don't have over-the-air television. All right, they don't. They don't even know what it is. Oh, you get television for free over the air? When did you do that? I had one woman go off on me in the old neighborhood. And I said, well, remember we had antennas on the roof of our houses? Oh, I don't remember that. I was like, you're toast. You're toast. Put her in the home. Yeah, that was a big thing in my neighborhood. Believe it or not. It's sort of like the Gene Shepard would be telling you the story. He does one of them about the old man buying the better AM radio. And was it a Philips? No. Can't think of the name right off the hand. It might come to me. But in other words, the father bought the best AM radio you could buy. And it really didn't sound that much better. It's AM, but it had good bass in the old days, like in the 30s. And it's so funny, but people would put an antenna up, and they'd put it backwards. They'd aim the arrow towards the station, and I said, the antenna's up backwards. No, it's not. Yeah, it's up backwards. Go look at your instructions. And then they wait like 2 weeks, and they send somebody up there to turn the antenna around. But where we were in New Jersey, we were only you could go to the top of our hill and see the transmitting tower. But we were on the other side of a mountain or a hill, and we got bounce back from the other mountain. And the bounce back was stronger than the signal we were getting. It was stupid. And I put up with that. Oh, and we were near the airport. So if the flight pattern was over the house, first of all, the plane was so loud, you could barely hear the television set. And on top of that, the picture would be fluctuating in and out from the airplane. And then some nights, the flight pattern would be somewhere else, and you would get really good reception. And I remember hot summer nights, we'd have the front door open on the house. I'd be sitting in the chair watching television. It was too hot to go to bed. It was just too hot. And I'd watch like Johnny Carson, and then one of the late movies. And then it would start to get cooler, and I'd go into bed and try to get some sleep. But I remember bad television. When the airplane would go over, the television would roll. It would lose sync for a vertical sync. And then as I went to tech school, I bought cable. I bought 75 ohm antennas, and I bought one home. It was my dad's parts place for his TV repair shop. And he goes, "What's this?" And I'm going, "You'll see." I said, "I'm not using the flat lead anymore." See, the flat lead, you would put a twist in it every so many feet, and that would sort of prevent the lead-in wire from picking up the signal. But we were so close to the station that we had ghosts from everything. And you would sit and you'd watch TV, and believe it or not, you didn't see the ghost after a while. You didn't see it. You would see the program. You'd remember. You didn't remember the ghosts. But it was really garbage. And then I said that we went to cable, and we got a garbage cable company. They were supposedly in our neighborhood 3 years before they got caught. They were money laundering. I won't say the name of the company, but they were money laundering money using our town and saying we had cable through them, but that we didn't. They didn't take the license away from them. They let them finish up. They put in cable. Our picture was always snowy. I paid $19 a month when I first came out, and then $10 more for HBO. And my father used to kick and scream, "It's stupid paying for television." I said, "Yeah, it is, but the picture's better. somewhat than what we used to get with the antenna. And it had no ghost, but it was snowy. It was very weak signals. And then some nights it would be really good. But anyway, I've gone through this, and then I moved here, and you don't think about these things. When you move, you look at the location. Does it flood? How are the storms? How are the weather? Is there a bus system? You think about all these things. I got everything right except two things: antenna location, signal strength in that, and the lake. When I moved here, I went around. There's streams everywhere, streams and creeks, and you would think one of them streams or creeks is going to go to a lake. No, no. I have a down the street from my house. I have Mill Creek. All right, my property down the back. I own that. It's a common area. I own part of it. I have to maintain it. I can walk on my property down to the end of the street on my property, and walk up to the creek and fish. And there's three kinds of bass there, but there's no lake. And one day it hit me. I said, "There's no lake here." And someone says, "Well, there's one down in the park." I said, "That's not a lake. That's a pond." And they're staring. I said, "Did you ever see a lake where people are water skiing on it, and there's a path around it?" And of course, I had my Verona Lake. Look it up, Verona Lake, New Jersey. It's a small lake, and it was a trolley park. It's got a history, all right? The 49 trolley went up Bloomfield Avenue, and everybody would show up dressed up on Sunday at Verona Lake. And you'd walk around the lake. They had rowboats. They had paddle boats. What else did they have there? Oh, they had a train. They had a little miniature train that drove around the lake. All right. That's what I grew up with. All right. Mostly a memory about the train. Train wasn't there. The trolley wasn't there. But I would walk up there, and people get dressed up on Sunday. And they come out and they take pictures. There's people that get married. They go there and they have pictures taken because it's a nice location. And I come here and thinking, I'm gonna have lake. I don't have lakes here. I got all these streams and creeks, and you go fishing, but there's no lake. But that's the thing. And then of course I have the same crappy crap. The house hits 80 degrees in the beginning of summer, and it basically stays 80 degrees until the end of summer. And I had one little crappy air conditioner, and I had one crappy one in New Jersey. I'm sort of living exactly the same way. But in New Jersey, I was in the cellar with my workshops. I had two different workshops. I had multiple benches here. It's this crappy little bench that you see in front of you. And, I gave up stuff so it would be cheaper. And I'd be able to afford it. I had given up the car, made everything work. And, I get enough Social Security. It actually starts to build after a while. And I can only have up to $18,000 under the program I'm under. I'm under Social Security, but they call it extra help. And I'm allowed to have up to $18,000 in the bank. And it might have gone up since I started the program. But there's just situations like, I just can't put a honking big antenna outside the HOA. And I did have a big honking antenna up in the attic aimed at Harrisburg, and all of a sudden channels started disappearing. That's because ABC moved from I think channel 6 up to 10. All of a sudden it's not there anymore, and the antenna for some reason didn't like channel 10. So I did some reading. I read about the repack, and then I changed my antenna to the smaller Winegard with a juice amplifier, and it was fine. But now the tree has grown over, and that extra 3 dB or 6 dB of attenuation took out my ABC. And when the leaves fall off the tree, it comes back. It's hilarious stuff. But right now I'm doing experiments. I know about Televis. I looked at it a few times. I've drooled a few times. And I could get one Televis and aim it at Harrisburg, and then use one of my Winegards to Philly with the juice amplifier. We're almost there. I have to make the decision. I bought so many antennas. I won't tell you how many antennas I bought, how many I took apart and threw out, brand new ones. I would buy it, and then the repack made it obsolete. I've been doing this over-the-air television set since Jersey. All right, I'm not new to cutting the cord. I'm one of the first people that cut the cord. And people go, "Oh, you're going to cut the cord?" I did that years ago. In New Jersey, I put up a new antenna, and they're like, "What are you putting up?" I said, "I'm putting an antenna up." I had an antenna, you just didn't notice it. I put a bigger one up, and I was watching television, and it was digital. Just before I left, we went to the new box. And everybody's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's digital. It's perfectly clear. There's no ghosts. There's no snow." And they didn't understand what I was talking about because they all paying the cable. They're paying old people paying cable. And then the guy next door to me, he's dead now. He bought a big screen TV, which wasn't a real big screen TV. It was a big screen TV, but right a few months after that, they come out with the LCD ones, the plasmas. He got a regular tube one with a really big picture tube in it. And then one day he come up and he goes, "I understand what you were saying." He goes, "I got this piece of crap television set." I said, "Yeah, you got the television set and you have to have an adapter on top of it in order to get it to work." With the new ones coming out, they had different type of decoders in them and stuff. But he did that with the computer. We were on to AT computers, uh, not the company, the style. He had XT and AT. And he went and paid uh, tomorrow's prices on last year's computer. He bought a computer that was 3 years old, and he paid almost $2,000 for it. And it was obsolete the day he got it. He was like, "It won't do this, it won't do that." And I kept saying to him, I said, "Look." So finally, him and his wife looked it over. They bought another computer for half, and it did more than the other one did. But they got a good salesman, and he sold it to them. They agreed on the price. And it was a company that they no longer made computers right after that. It was pretty funny stuff. But I bet I do a lot of experiments, and I just hit on the fact that both patch you want the antennas to both be the same, or you want one to be a VHF and a UHF, and you want the wires to each antenna to be the same length. And that's just one of the tricks. And that's what I'm going through. I'm going through step by step. And I'm seeing if I get any improvement. At some point, yeah, I will buy a Televis, at least one. And then there's repack Televises. In other words, there's Boss, there's different levels. They've redone them. Because that antenna guy goes, "There's no real thing as an HD television." Well, HD antenna. Well, technically, you're right. But there is over-the-air antennas that are made for the new systems, and they really don't have low low VHF on them anymore. And a lot of the antennas are just UHF now. Some areas don't have any high VHF signals, and then you can put more oomph or more material into more elements to get even more signal. I think that's it. All right, that's it. This is part 2.